what? No, I don't want to say anything.
This episode of Getting Tabled is brought to you by Valhalla Hobby. Use code TABLE to get 5% off any order over $100, one use only. A big thank you to our patrons for supporting us. Please consider supporting us for $2 a month. You can listen live and get all video access early. Brought to you live from a studio that doesn't exist.
Brought to you by some guys on the internet.
This is Getting Tabled.
With your hosts, Jason the Bruce,
You guy!
George the Yang,
I hope you are all entertained by my inaptitude.
Jason aka Major Socks.
We've been doing this and talking about various stuff. One of the stuff.
Now sit back, relax, and get tabled.
Hello, future people. Welcome to episode 156 of Getting Tabled with your silly upside-down host, the Bruce.
Hello, folks. We should totally do an episode where I start upside down at some point. That is something we should have done a long time ago, and I'm kind of disappointed I've only just thought of it now. We also have... Yes, I am here. But we also have a man wearing a t-shirt that doesn't have the number 54 written properly on it. Major Socks.
It is written correctly if you understand Super Bowl numbering.
Hey, don't complain too much. He didn't demote you this time.
No, that's true.
I haven't demoted him for quite some time.
For a while. I know.
It's been
Or
quite a
called me
few
as-
months.
Or call me civilian footwear either, of some sort. So I appreciate that. So, yep, I'm here, and we got George.
Yep, George is here.
Hello!
Or do we have George? I mean, sometimes George isn't here because he's in no man's land.
I just said live from a studio that doesn't exist, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. We should keep that. That's a brilliant line. All right, I'm going to try this episode like I tried to do last episode, and you all got confused and stopped me from doing it. In this episode, we are looking at some glorious new stuff from Moonstone. We're looking at the new stuff coming out of TT Combat. We haven't looked at TT Combat stuff for a little while. Miniture Games are bringing Dreadball back again. We have a new mech miniature game coming to Kickstarter. We have some new Marvel stuff. And we have a World War II game coming out of Battlefront. And we'll be finishing off the news with some rather problematic news coming out of... Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. We've got two companies arguing over whose fault something is.
Newly received or noteworthy information, especially about recent or important events.
And we're starting with some Moonstone greatness. I'm just going to say this up from the...
I think that's an understatement. Looking at that first mini, I think our greatness is an understatement.
I am yet to see... I'm not going to sit here and say that everything Tom has ever done for Moonstone is something that grabs me aesthetically. Because no game has ever done that, and ever will do that. But I'm yet to see a miniature from Moonstone that doesn't look nice. The Souls of the Deep is their new Dominion box that's coming. The one that George is referring to here is Commodore Delaya. Or at least that's how I'm going to say it. It's probably not right.
Delahy.
That's
how I would say it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways that you can do like a ghostly type apparition and stuff, but I kind of like they've not bothered trying to figure out, okay, so how are we going to have this massive hole in the middle of it and still have it all connected? They've just went, stuff it, it's two different pieces. I would probably recommend you're going to need to pin this to the base, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite literally, it's just like, let's not do 1/4 of the mini and make it look amazing.
Mm.
Like, the amount of work saved. Yeah, I mean, the amount of work saved not doing that chunk of the mini, substantial.
True. Yeah.
The way it makes that mini look,
it looks better
phenomenal.
better than trying to connect it with ghostly apparition stuff.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It reminds me of a statue in England, and I can't think what it's called, but it's basically like a soldier that's kind of missing pieces and stuff up on a cliff face somewhere.
Docs, you were saying something before I continue to just talk over you like a jerk?
No, it's just like, you've got the arms and the legs and the upper chest, and that's the only body part you see, so it's kind of cool how they've modeled this to miss all
I
those main parts.
suspect that there's not going to be any glue required for this. Because looking at it, I mean, unless the arm that's reaching out is a separate part, it certainly could be.
I think the only thing you would have to glue, is that left arm that's pointing, because it's going out at a 90-degree angle from
Yeah.
the body.
That's probably it.
Yeah.
Because the other one's glued to the actual...
Like,
is glued to the actual other leg. We also have the Chad crab. That's not what his name is, but I'm calling him the Chad crab because I think it was Jerry that called him that, and I can't unsay it now.
I love the name, though, Chesapeake.
Chesapeake, yeah. Like,
That is...
there's something about a crab with human lips that is really disturbing in the best way.
So Chesapeake and the Commodore, I love the Pirates of the Caribbean, Flying Dutchman aesthetic they have going for them.
Yeah.
They're not as like barnacle encrusted, but they've got that same horror feel to it.
Yeah. It's definitely got a darker feel.
It's just got the right amount to it. That being said, though, I would do Chesapeake like he's already been cooked. Nice, bright, vibrant orange or red, like he's been cooked.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that. And as much as like he has this like human lips type thing, I would probably still try to paint that to make it look like it belongs naturally. Like I'd keep that with the lighter color underneath, but I wouldn't go like this part is human. I would just try to make it look like it all belongs together, personally. Or I will, because I'm 100% buying this box at some point. And then last but not least, we have Bridget, which is a new fairy. She is a fairy pirate. Wait, is she a fairy pirate? I should double check that. Yeah, she's a fairy pirate. And it's just gorgeous undead fairy type thing. It's the right type of creepy again. I love her wings.
The traditional soul, smoke, I guess, the soul smoke.
Yeah.
We've seen it in Games Workshop, we've seen it in others. But the fact, if you looked at the very top skull of it, she's holding on to it.
Mm-hmm.
She's
like she's dragging it out from the ether.
Yeah. Yeah, the fact that, she's in a very more traditional period woman dress of that era instead of, looking fairy or fae. No, really. She looks good, but she ain't no Commodore. I'm sorry, that Commodore is just...
Oh, the Commodore is glorious. Yeah. The thing I like most about the Commodore is I've not really seen somebody try to do that and just go, stuff it, this is what I'm doing.
Which is probably why it looks so good and why it works so well is...
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, to not do a quarter of the miniature and, essentially, do it like that so it's on the base like that, that's pretty brave, I think, sculpting-wise.
And it's worked.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
With Bridget, I really like the wings. And personally, I'm thinking I want to do them like they're dried up, crusty autumn wings or fall leaves.
So
just
this might
the
take
veins
some
are so strong and stuff.
Yeah. What I would try to do, since she's supposed to be pirate-ish, right?
Mm.
Is I would try to make her wings look like tattered sails.
Or the pirate flag.
Like maybe have that, try to stitch it in there. Like if you look at her back part, the back of it, there's different sections of it. Maybe have that look like one part of it. Like some holes, but where the lines are like veins. Make that look like stitchy and make it look like they're faded out sails.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think that would be a really great look if she's supposed to be a pirate fae. That to me, that makes the most sense. Do I have the skill and ability to pull that off? Absolutely not. So, but that's how it should be done.
I have a feeling that if I was to try that, it would end up looking like it's not finished. Personally. Also from Moonstone. Oh, nope, not that one. We have Barnacle. or barnacle, which is
Barnacle?
I think it's
Kelly?
meant to be barnacle. It's just spelt in a weird way. Moonstone do that
Yeah.
quite regularly.
Well,
This is kind of like an
it's
undead
also supposed to
troll.
be well, it also has a feminine feminine appearance to it, so that's why I was thinking Keely.
Barnacle, then. Yeah.
Oh, Barnacle could be, yeah. Definitely looks trollish for sure.
Yeah.
I would love to see more barnacles though. Like you see the crab on her foot.
And on her hip. Like
Yeah,
this
she's got one on her
miniature
hip.
quite literally has crabs.
Ew.
I don't think that's accidental. I think that's deliberate. There's also quite a bunch of seaweed around. I would probably paint the hair to all be seaweed personally. I just kind of feel like that's where you would want to go. I love the giant, rusty, horrible-looking anchor that she's carrying around as well.
Well, I was going to point this out too. If you look at the back shot of her, where you can definitely see that's an anchor. That's a conch shell she's got on the back of her head as part of her.
It's really good.
Again, it has that that horror aesthetic of the Flying Dutchman from Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's just super well done. I think.
Yeah. I like in the card you can actually see that they've painted the eyes to be clear, like there's no like it's just undead living type
orbs.
stuff. Yeah.
Oh, or
Like she's
is it cataracts or glaucoma? Cataracts, where your eyes.
Glaucoma.
Glaucoma.
I think these releases look magnificent. Like I said, there's nothing from them that I haven't liked so far. But TT Combat, we have some good doggos. I'm starting with the good doggos because they are so good, and they are
We don't
doggos.
need to talk about them. We don't need to talk about them. We need to talk about the 3 battleships down below. But okay, we can talk about the doggos.
They're actually like they're hyenas, but well, gnolls. Is it gnolls the D&D thing?
Knowles.
Yeah.
Yeah. I call them Knowles.
But I mean,
they're
they can be
also,
whatever you want, really. Like to me, they're hyenas. Like I keep thinking of the hyenas from The Lion King because you got this really big, stupid one down the bottom. This one that's kind of charging at the front kind of gives me vibes of the other one, and then you got Whoopi Goldberg there in the background. That's just the vibe that I get.
Well, it's the difference is hyenas are the actual animal. The gnoll is the human hybrid of what a hyena would be if it was humanoid. So, just getting the lore straight.
Of course.
Oh, the actual description does call them gnolls. So yeah, they are gnolls officially. I missed that. Oh, and the giant one is a Noga. I like that.
Yeah.
Make sure you enunciate carefully when you're saying that one.
What? Noga?
Yes, Noger.
I fail to see how that would be bad to say it wrong.
Because you're in Australia, not America. I just noticed something.
Yes.
Look at the bottom right-hand corner of the cards. That's very dwarf symbology there. The little mountain
it is.
with
like
the
runing symbols. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just noticed that. And then it says the mountain on the back of the cards.
Yeah. So that'll be that's the team that they belong to.
Oh, okay.
We also have an ostrich chariot. I'm just going to tease this out now and look at everything apart from what Sox wants to look at.
I know you are now.
I mean, this is a little bit more straightforward. Like, it's a chariot that's being drawn by ostriches.
With a guy riding one.
I was going to say, if you look at the last image, it's kind of whimsical because there's a guy like hanging on for dear life.
Oh, I didn't even see that. That's brilliant.
Oh yeah, you can hardly see it on the back on the other side, but you're absolutely right.
You can also see that it started falling apart, which is glorious too.
Why it's falling
what
off?
they've done, they've made a chariot out of a broken boat.
Yes.
It's very whimsical for the game.
Yeah,
that it's for. This is Because, I mean, Carnivale is not a whimsical game, and this is a very whimsical-looking mini for that game.
Yeah. I kind of like the fact that it kind of shows that it's kind of tearing the street apart, quite literally. And disintegrating as it goes.
Mm-hmm.
That is fun. I like
Well,
that.
also filled to the brim with cargo and treasure of some sort, with as much as they can fit inside of it before it breaks apart.
Yeah, pretty much. And they're throwing Molotov cocktails. Or at least one of them is. And then we have a lovely piece of terrain, but we're going to skip past that. Okay, Socks. But we're going to start by looking at the Sheltari one.
Why is that one?
Because it was the first one on the list. We're going
Because
in
it's
order.
in order.
Also, look, I'm sorry. I actually think this is the nicest looking of the three. It's
So
glorious if you do all of the dots, which George won't.
No, he won't. So yeah, from my understanding, you can build.
Oh no.
George is looking at all of
It's
the different ones that he needs to build.
It is a good thing they decided to nerf that Particle Lance Triad. Because there's a build out with the Particle Lance Triad, but another big gun sticking off the front of it too.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3,
Yeah,
4.
so
Image 5.
Yeah.
So
this allows you to build your first edition battleships as well as all the new ones, from my understanding, in these kits. So, great addition to what TT Combat is bringing out with these new plastic battleships.
Yeah, I was gonna say now that was the one thing that Dave teased to us is plastic.
Yeah. That's not the only thing that he teased to us. He also said that there is a plastic dreadnought coming
Yes.
for the Resistance.
So being a Sheltari player and having the original resin kit, I will say this: I like the little, I guess, sponsons that are coming off the little triangle bits there towards the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that aesthetic better than just the points sticking out.
No, I agree. This kind of feels like they have more of a feel for like what things are.
I agree. I like the sculpt better than I like the resin sculpts. I mean, don't get me wrong, the resin sculpts look nice too, but I think I like this version.
See, whenever you're trying to introduce something that potentially replaces an older kit, you have because you have to try and encourage people to buy it when they already have. I mean, in this case, they already have one that does 2 of what this builds.
Yep.
Then the only way that you can kind of get around that is to have it so that it aesthetically looks nice enough that you go, oh, I don't care, I need it. You can't do that with everything because obviously aesthetics means that some people will like it and some people won't. Also, not everybody can just afford to replace everything all the time. But I definitely think that they've done that with the Sheltari one, at least.
I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, will I buy this? I'm sitting at a good solid 7.5, 8, just because I want a Particle Lance Triad with whatever that giant gun is.
Yeah, I can already tell you that I want the Scourge one. I can tell you that for a fact. We are going to look at all of them today because I don't believe we've actually covered any of them, and there's been a couple that's been out for a while. Socks, you're not a huge fan of the PHR, right? You really hate it when we look at the PHR. We should skip over them.
No, absolutely, I love them.
Oh, okay.
We're not going to skip them over at all. And same thing, I like the look of this sculpt because the original one had a big, huge, long fin on the top part, whereas this one is just a small engine mount, which makes this one a little bit easier to store.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a lot of the other smaller fins sticking off of it, too.
I really, really like what they're doing here. I quite like... There's a fin that's doing... I can't think what those weapons actually are. They're little missiles, I guess? Not missiles.
Those are the torpedoes. Those little giant torpedoes. Point that.
Like there's a little fin that disappears in the second sculpt, which is just sitting on top of the wing, which would make this really easy to kind of make multiple things out of. This is really nice.
Well, again, it falls into that category of it's the PHR. These are easily like the best looking minis in the game just off of the pure aesthetic, because this just looks so good and it fits that futuristic sci-fi look so well with their, what are they known for? Having good armor. Why? Well, it's a giant smooth plate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which means you can do anything you want with it. Yeah. I mean, if you want to paint like bombshell miniatures across the side of it, like World War II plane aesthetics, you could totally do that. Doesn't really make a lot of sense in the lore, but you could totally do that. Welcome back from our technical error. George's computer just kind of decided to go, I give up.
I'm done.
It developed a stutter.
A stutter and then some.
Stutter. What I was about to say is, the nice thing about these two is look at the price. The resins were £50. These are 30.
Yeah. So well, the one thing I was going to say too about these battleships, because it's the bigger craft, right? And what did you see on the bigger craft during World War II? Nose art.
Yes.
Yes.
I would love to see someone with the skill and ability doing like pinups on the nose of the PHR battleships.
That would be fun.
But it has to be cyborg pinups.
Yep. With doing the whole come hither thing.
Right? Or some play like the misbehaving or whatever kind of play on words for. but yeah, with cyborg limbs and half the face is cybernetic, and
Siren would almost go with the naming aesthetics for the PHR, actually.
Hell, it would too.
Yeah. Anyways, Bioficers.
Bioficers. Yep.
There's something about this faction that just makes me want to I need to play these now too.
They are really nice. From what I understand about their lore, you would really enjoy them as well, because they are kind of one of those factions that just kind of play. I really, really like this. The second one with like the giant laser battery, like there's a piece of artwork where it's just firing all of them at once, and it's just a giant line of lasers. It's so good. And very different from anything else.
The one with the giant light bulb on the front?
No, the one that has all of the little LEDs on the front. They are all separate lasers, so you get like a line of lasers coming out of the front of it like this. It's really cool.
So, then you have the
narwhal horn, almost.
Yeah,
looks deadly as well. I'm not sure what type of weapon that is, but it just looks.
Look, it's either something that's going to be very deadly, or something that appears on OnlyFans. It's one of the two.
If I do get the Bioficers and I do build out this one, every time I roll dice for the ship, I'm going to be singing the Narwhal song.
I don't know what the Narwhal song is.
What? Narwhals swimming in the ocean, causing a commotion because they are so awesome. Narwhals.
Nope, I have no idea what this is. Okay.
Wow. Okay, we'll have to fix that at the end of the episode, Bruce.
I'm guessing this is something from your kids' generation, not from we were kids.
No, this is like the last 10 years or something like that.
Oh, no wonder I don't 15. Know what it is. And you got this weird little... I don't know what this last thing is.
Well, so if you go back to the Narwhal one, it's in the center of the ship.
Yeah.
Oh, it is too. Yeah.
No, I know that's a thing with the Bioficers without having read anything about them and knowing anything about how their stuff works. They have parts of their ships that detach.
Yeah.
I do remember that. So,
All right.
Yeah, there's just something about them. It's just like they look so organic and like put together, horribly, and then their ships are the complete opposite of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we skip down a few, we then get to the Scourge battleship. Like I said, I don't believe we've covered these. The Scourge and the UCM ones. And yeah, George's reaction is basically how I felt when I first saw these. Like, they are so nice. Very, very different aesthetic from what we originally saw. These kind of feel more along the lines with what we got with the destroyers than what we got with the original battleships. And I'm here for it. I really like this.
Nice.
So, the Biophasers, whatever, that is what they is. It's all brand new. So far, the Shaltari and the PHR, like, the original battleships can be built with that. You can tell it's the original battleships.
Mm-hmm.
There's a slight difference, but it still looks good. Nothing about these look like the original battleships, and it is the best decision ever because these are freaking amazing.
It's not that I don't like the original battleships, but the giant horn thing that came out of the back of, I don't remember if it was the devil or the demon. So the devil or the dragon, but it had like this giant, in the Kickstarter exclusive one, it had this giant cone coming out of the back of it.
Yeah.
It always kind of looked kind of odd.
I think I know. Let's see which one we got. I just happen to have Sam's stuff here handy.
I mean, I have one out there somewhere, but I'm not going hunting for it now. But I just think this looks so much nicer. Yes.
Yeah.
I do. It's not that I don't like that. I do like that. This is so much better. Like, if you wanted me to buy an entire new fleet, this is how you do it, because I have the battleship. I never want to use it again after this because I want all of these.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm gonna call out the aesthetic here.
Mm-hmm.
This is very inspired by Kevin Sorbo's Andromeda.
Yeah, I can see that actually.
Yeah.
Underrated show for the first couple of seasons, and then it kind of falls off.
For sure. But there's just something like all the Scourge cruisers look the same. All the heavy cruisers look the same. Like, there's all these similarities. Like, and then you get into like, the Dreadnought, and there's the segmented one. This just looks so different from anything else currently in the Scourge fleet, and it looks so amazing.
Yeah.
This builds so many different ships too. You got the Faust, you got the Demon, Samuel, Realm,
Beelzebub,
Nephilim, Lucifer, Dragon, Devil, Beelzebub, Baal. Like, it builds so many different things. If I end up buying this, I have a feeling that I'm going to have to buy more than one.
11 it builds?
Is that how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. No, 10. Because the 11th is just the box. UCM probably is more in line with what we see, like, because the Shaltari kind of feels like it was building on what they were already doing. You can kind of see that here with the UCM one as well. It's not like a completely new, different thing, but I don't mean that in a negative sense with the others. It does still look really nice. It doesn't just feel like it's a bigger version of what we already have. It does feel like it's more chunky and more built up, as it should.
Well, so here's the thing with the PHR and the UCM, right? So there's a lot of human thinking behind those because there's humans.
Yep.
And if you look at like anything we do nowadays, right? We start with a chassis. We're going to talk about cars here, right? So.
Mm-hmm.
You start with your base model car, and then you swap out this part, and it's better. Then you swap out this part, and it's better. You swap out this part. It's like, I guess the best version would be like the Ford Transit van. The frame is the same, and what you add to it is what makes it different. And that's all the PHR and UCM are doing here is it has the same frame.
Look, you could make the same argument with the Ranger, the Ford Ranger with the Raptor versions and everything. They're all the same.
Yeah,
it's just a different shell.
Yeah, so like, you know, and that's if you look at the drive section, I guess if you look, it's the same all the way across the board. It's the Ford modules that are different.
Yeah.
And to me, that just makes the most sense because why design 10 different things when you design one thing and slap 10 different things on it?
I actually really like the addition of the big chunky bit on the front too. Like, it does make a big difference.
And for the UCM, it works so well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Putting all your hangar bays up front for all your launch options. The torpedoes, your fighters and bombers. Then you still got the turrets on the back and the shoulder mounts, or sometimes you got the chin mounts too, depending on what variant you're taking. Yeah, I really like this one too.
Also, I love the burn through laser. It's at least I'm assuming that's what that's supposed to be. It's a new design for it, but it's really nice.
About the Carthage
on the Tokyo
on the Carthage.
Carthage is huge railguns.
Oh, is it a railgun? Okay. Yep.
Yeah, Tokyo and Babylon have the two lasers. The bottom two pictures.
Oh, Beijing has it as well.
Yes.
The Thebes. God, that is a big freaking railgun.
Yeah. It's really nice.
Like, if I remember correctly, too, the big like standard railguns that you see on the back of it, the biggest one, wasn't it supposed to be shooting like around the size of a Volkswagen Beetle when the game launched? Isn't that what they said?
Like that. I'm trying to remember how big they said.
Now you have now you have a railgun that's like a third the ship.
Yeah, you're launching trains, locomotives now instead of cars.
It certainly feels that way. I think they've hit all 5 of these out of the park, personally.
With having never had biofighters to look at or anything, as far as, you know, past comparison, like, you know, they've got a lot of weight to pull. But I think hands down, as far as these redesigns go, nothing comes close to touching the Scourge.
It's definitely the most redesigned out of all of them, that's for sure. I mean, I'm biased here, so yeah. I mean, obviously, I love the Scourge.
Well, I would let you be biased because I have to agree with that 100%. Like the Scourge, the UCM looks good, the PHR looks good. The Shaltari looks fantastic, especially, you know, the triad with another big gun. That makes me very excited. But I'm sorry, these Scourge ships, they just look so. Like, I would love to just, like, build all 10 of them and just do a fleet of just 10 of these ships and just be like, bring whatever you want equal to these points, and I'm going to play with these 10 ships because they look so cool.
I'm not going to lie. I have a big issue with what TT Combat are doing here. Because they are making me want to completely rebuild my Scourge fleet from the start. And it's a problem.
For you, not them. Okay, maybe not you either. It's a problem for your wallet and your bank account.
I mean,
but you can buy two. You can buy 2 of these just over the price of one when the resin cast. So it's going to help your wallet a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I only ever had the one that I built, and I was kind of like, it's this, and I would just count it as whatever, because like it was always a casual game, and it wasn't really that big of a deal. Because I couldn't afford
there's
to
only
buy
like 2 at the time.
$100 miniatures. Yeah, there was only 2 at the time, yeah.
Now we got close to 10 for each faction.
Yeah. They're doing really, really good work. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. I'm
a little upset.
Yes.
So the Scourge, they list the names.
Oh, and they don't do any of the rest of them.
I saw that.
And the UCM, they list the names. But they don't list the names for the PHR. And I don't know if Dave couldn't find any more stripper names for the Shaltari, but
they've obviously decided with the new lots that maybe it was too distracting or something, or I don't know, maybe they just didn't get around to uploading those versions of the images.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen them with their names. That way I knew what I was looking at. I like them when I
Yeah.
could see which versions.
Yeah, I would really like to know which one has the Triad and the other big gun now.
Yeah. Going back slightly, the Patrician Ottoman Embassy I want to look at, because I did skip over this.
Yes.
This is just a new piece of terrain that is very much for Carnivale. Or at least I'm assuming it's for Carnivale. Yep, Carnivale. And honestly, it looks really nice. There's not really much else to say about it. It's just a really nice piece of terrain.
Yeah.
Kind of feels very modular.
I like the domed roofs.
Yeah, which is really hard to pull off with MDF.
With MDF? Yeah, absolutely.
I suspect that they are made with card.
Oh, it's 3DF MDF with resin domes.
Oh, okay. That's how they've managed it then. Yep.
Helps if you read their socks. That's something that a major in the Air Force should be able to do.
It was me that said
I was
that,
just
not
looking at
socks.
the pictures, but you're absolutely right. I should have read first.
Also, it wasn't you that made the comment about MDF. It was me. You just agreed with me. So, George, you should know where to point your blame at.
I corrected and said it was resin because I read.
Mm-hmm.
All
right.
Lots of good stuff from TT Combat.
And it looks like are all three of us at like Scourge are on top here?
As a Shaltari player, that Scourge Battleship kit makes mine look like trash. I'm sorry. I love the aesthetic of the Shaltari Battleship with that,
Same.
the arrow pointing through space, like just stabbing and pointing and killing whatever it comes across. That Scourge one just makes it look like garbage, though. I'm sorry. The Scourge just looks so good.
I'm still leaning towards my PHR. I'm sorry.
Oh, the PHR is
biased.
good as well. Like, us saying that Scourge are in front doesn't take away from how beautiful the PHR is.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, and to be fair, too, of all the battleships that were released, the PHR was in the least need of a redo, in my opinion.
Yeah, I will agree with it. As far as the
I can
battleship is
agree with
concerned, I agree.
Like, we can't count the Biofester because that's just come out, so in least to most need of resculpt. We've got PHR least needing it. UCM Shaltari tied in the middle for meh. We could, but we don't need it. The Scourge, absolutely. I'm gonna agree with you, Bruce. Like just the big horn added on, or like the extra fin, like that doesn't make it a battleship. That just makes it look like you bolted on it makes it look orcish, right? They just slap something bigger on to make it look bigger and meaner. Yeah. This is so worth it. I know I'm sounding like a broken record repeating myself, but it's just because it's so true.
It looks like they've taken the destroyers and just went.
Yeah, for sure.
Moving on. Mantic Games are bringing back one of their... Well, the game's never really gone away, but it's been a long time since they've had a release for Dreadball. So Dreadball is Blood Bowl, but in the future. That was the original concept. I'm not saying that the rules are very different, but we're going in with a brand new version with Dreadball All-Stars.
Welcome back.
Kind of mute this. There's a video up on their website with it's just Ronnie and I don't know who this other guy is that's talking. Oh, Dan. Talking about what's coming and stuff. They don't really show off a lot in the video, just skimming through it here. Dreadball is a game that I've wanted to play for a very long time. I've never had the chance because I don't know anybody else that plays it. So... But
I've never heard of it before, so that just tells you
it's quite literally one of their classics. I would almost go as far as to say that it's probably one of the reasons why we got Blood Bowl back, officially. Because it was played that heavily at one point. It was one of the... Kings of War was always very successful. Dreadball was up there as well. The miniatures that you can buy for Dreadball are the board game quality miniatures. So it's very like this flimsy plastic stuff that is fine because that's all it was ever supposed to be. Personally, I would love to see them start redoing that with some of the resins and stuff that you can get now. Because I'd probably buy into that.
Especially with resin 3D printing what it is right now too.
Yeah. But like, it's going to be interesting to see. Like, there's been multiple versions of Dreadball we've had over the years. There's obviously the original, and I believe there was a second edition. Then there was something that they called Dreadball Extreme, which is the current one that's kind of been, like, even that's been out for a good at least 4 or 5 years now. And I think the last time we looked at Dreadball, there was like a thing of coaches they released or something. Like, it's been quite some time since anything. This is one of those games that Mantic have had for a long time, and it's pretty much entirely fleshed out at this point. So it looks like this is more just a... Apparently, this came about because somebody came to them with an idea, and they went, yeah, we like that idea, we're going to do it. That is what I heard mentioned elsewhere, but I don't know where the information came from. There is a pre-campaign page. This is going to be going to Kickstarter. It's going to be interesting to see. Oh, there's nothing really on the page. I don't even know why I bother clicking on it.
Yeah, there's super not a lot of anything to look at.
It's going to be interesting to see what we actually get from this. I mean, for someone like myself that's kind of been tempted for a long time, maybe I jump in on a 2-player starter set and I paint them up and it's like, hey, this is something I can play with people. It's just a game in a box, maybe. But I don't know. It all depends on funds and stuff. I can't really justify buying a lot of things when I'm trying to make a game of my own. Also, I love the logo. The logo's really cool.
And you have to buy 5 Scourge battleships or battlecruisers.
I have to buy 10, don't I?
Yes.
5. You have to start with 5 at least.
Fair enough. Moving on.
Or battleships. Battleships, I was right.
We have a Kickstarter called Flames of Orion. This is being done by Steve Hupfer. Now, this Flames of Orion is a very much an indie game. It's a game that you can go out and download the rules for right now for free. This Kickstarter is to get a physical version of the rules out there for people to buy. And basically, it's just one of those things of like, hey, look, yeah, you can buy this for free, but you can get this for free. But if you'd like to support me, I'd really appreciate it. It's a nice way of doing it, really. Like there is a version where you can get the PDF, and then obviously it's going to end up being a pretty version of the basic one that you can download. So this is a mech game. It's essentially another way that you can play mech. Like if you've got a lot of mech warrior games and you don't like the rules, and there is a fair bit of that out there now. Like Mech Warrior tends to be a game that people either love or they don't. Not Mech. What is it? Battlefront? No. BattleTech.
BattleTech.
Because it's very much a product of its time. I'm not giving it hate here. I'm just acknowledging that it is one of those games that people either tend to love or they don't. Because it's very math heavy. It's very much tables on top of tables on top of tables. Because that's what gaming was at the point where it came out. And there's a large percentage of that player base that really doesn't want it to change because it's the reason they play it. So this is just like, it's another way that you can play that sort of game if you don't really like the rules. Reportedly, this is done in a way where you can kind of play this with whatever you want. So in theory, you could play this with Gundams if you really wanted to.
My opinion, and not knowing anything about this, sitting down and reading it and going through it, I don't like it because I don't like these mech games. They're just so, like fine. You said. And so, and that's my initial response seeing this is like...
Mechs are a thing that don't really click with everybody too.
Yeah.
As a general concept, do you like the concept of a mech? I mean, real life, we know that they don't work, right? Like, there's just no reason that you would ever build a mech because tanks are better.
Well, Well, they're not physically. If you take the size and weight of a mech, and then do the math, they'd have to walk on everything would have to be reinforced concrete, like so many feet thick to support the mech. And then it's just it's a giant bullseye tank, shooting rockets and missiles. How do you take out a tank? Rockets and missiles. They don't have any extra shields, right? Yeah, some of them do, but it's just like it's
not just that, but what you're talking about, George, about having to just have them walk around in your country. How are you going to get them to other warfronts around the world? Not really.
Yeah, exactly. Like how are you going to transport this, across an ocean? Like I could see like the African, European, Asian theater, sure, but
we're not like Pacific Rim where you've got Chinooks and other helicopters transporting these things in the air. Sorry.
I just wanted, as the person that brought this particular subject up of they don't make a lot of sense. I just want to make one thing very clear, because this particular point of conversation really upsets certain people. I am a fan of mechs. I love mechs. They are really cool. I love mechs. They don't work in real life. They will never work in real life because you can do more with a tank. Like, quite literally. The reason that nobody... Well, actually, there are people that have tried. There are people that continue to try. Mechs don't work. They don't make any sense, realistically, scientifically.
Yeah.
They just look cool. If you like their aesthetic, which George doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only mech thing that I've ever really liked was a late 90s cartoon called Exo Squad.
Okay.
And that's just because those were more reasonable. Instead of, a 30-foot tall mech, they were
more like power suits, right?
Yeah, they were more like power suits. They were 10, 15 feet tall for, like, the really big ones. And it was, essentially it was, I guess the best example of, like, the common knowledge is Ellen Ripley in the loader suit from Aliens.
Yeah.
Or the little walker, little bodysuits from Avatar.
Yeah, like...
And at least with that technology, it's not it's not like you could turn around and go, well, because with mechs, scientists have looked at this, and it just, it doesn't make any sense. Because you can do more with less. All you're doing with a mech is introducing things to fail.
Yeah.
Which would happen very quickly. All you got to do is shoot a leg out, and the mech is essentially useless. Can you make the same argument with a tank? Yes, but it's also not as easy to take the tank out as it would be to take a mech out. Power suits, on the other hand, there's still questions to be answered about those. I actually think there are scientists are still trying to work on that idea. Nobody's really been successful yet, but it's not like the jury's not out on power suits.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see. Obviously, from a creator like me, I'm someone that's trying to develop my own thing. I like seeing a project like this doing well. They've been wanting 18,000. They're currently at 18,000. They had a $5,000 goal. It's always kind of nice to see someone that's kind of out there doing a small project and that they want to get the project out there to more people. It's good to see.
And again,
it's quite affordable.
I don't know anything about this. I'm not. It's not my thing. It doesn't make me go ooh.
And that's fine. They're looking for $30 for a physical rulebook plus postage, obviously. It's going to be nice to see. Let's move on. Atomic Mass Games have a couple of things coming out. And I'm going to start with, personally, the one that I think looks the nicest, and I don't even think it's even vaguely close. Phoenix and Phoenix Unleashed is awesome. This is just all kinds of brilliant. So, this box comes with a Phoenix miniature, which is the awesome bit. It also has a Phoenix Unleashed miniature, 2 flame pillars. This is just incredible. What is the difference? Well, one is just a regular Phoenix miniature, and then the other one is gigantic.
I was gonna say is the the Phoenix Unleashed is like, your regular monster that's not sugar free, and the other Phoenix is sugar free.
Yeah. So my expectation of this is that Phoenix Unleashed is going to be one of the monstrous bad guys that you have to kind of fight out together, like when you got the Thanos one, and when you got like that is what I'm expecting here. Especially given that also comes with the flame pillars, it kind of makes sense in my head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially being a character pack, it's kind of what you that's what you expect from that, right? What's this say?
Yep.
Brings incredible power. It doesn't really say that that's what it is. So maybe I'm wrong. I just think this looks great.
The one thing I will say too is the I'm not going to say problem, but I'm going to use the word problem with the female poses is
they're all the same
because it is the Phoenix, and you have so much more to pose with. Like the flames do so much to make the pose so much better.
We still have this issue of like, all of the female miniatures are posed the same. I think recently-ish there was one that kind of felt like it had a new pose. But this is straight back to the I'm going to stand down here with my arms up and then I've got my hands up here. Like, it's the same two poses again. They look nicer because of the flames. You're 100% right. Oh, no, sorry, I stand corrected. Her fingers are spread. It is different technically. The fingers have been spread.
They're not in a fist.
Yeah. But we still have that issue. In the other box, I mean, the pose is slightly different for Lady Mastermind, but she's just doing this. She's got one hand on her hip and she's got another hand out. Like, it's a different pose, but if anything, it's even more boring.
Yeah, the Jaguar's doing the work for that mini.
The Jaguar looks awesome. I really like the look of her miniature. I also quite like the look of Exodus. I know that Avalanche is drawing from the comics here, but I wish they'd gone in a different direction. I don't think that particular costume holds up very well. But that's not their fault.
The funny thing is like, I do know who Exodus is. The problem is I've only ever seen him in one issue of an X-Men comic. He was on a space station with a Deadpool,
Weapon X?
the metal guy. Rick, what's his name? The Russian kid. Colossus.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So Exodus was on a space station with Colossus, and like Magneto was on the space station, and Xavier had wiped his mind. That's the only time I'd ever seen Exodus in a comic book.
Okay.
Is that one issue, and that's it. So,
personally, I think Exodus is the best looking miniature in this box. Personally,
yeah,
and I don't think it's even close.
And looks exactly like that issue that I saw. Like, this looks, sculpt for drawing. This looks exactly the same. I just don't know anything about the character.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, it's really interesting. Like, Avalanche doesn't look terrible. It's just I just don't feel like that particular outfit holds up very well. I kind of wish they'd gone with something more along the lines of what the redesign was from the 2000s cartoon. Is it X-Men Extreme or something?
I don't know. This is what I remember though. Is the big
it's a man with a bucket on his head. I'm sorry.
That's what made him great. He was so cheesy.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I like the basing that they've done for it. Looks really cool.
Yeah, for sure. That being said, though, the basing for Exodus, stupendous.
Yeah.
The Starfire, I'm gonna call it.
And it doesn't look like it's going to be fragile.
Yeah.
The Jaguar thing that Lady Mastermind has looks really cool. It kind of looks like it's going to be a nightmare to paint. I don't really like her basing as much. Like, she has kind of like the opposite of a tactical rock, where she's stepping down from a step. Which, yes, could in theory go anywhere, but I don't know. It just
It's a
it
tactical
looks
curve.
unfinished.
No. What's crap socks? What's it called? It's a tactical median.
Median, yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind turning the step into a little garden bed, maybe.
Yeah.
Because you've got like this tree coming out of her power on the other side. What if that was because the rest of it was actually a garden that she was... I don't know. It just feels unfinished to me. So
Yeah.
it kind of feels like something that was put there while they were trying to figure out what they wanted to do, and then they never actually got around to doing it. That's just my opinion. Let's move on. Angels 1-6 are releasing a new game called The Battle of Britain. This is an aircraft game, and kind of feels like this is more of like it's another aircraft game. This is going back to the roots of it though, where you're actually quite literally getting the telescopic flight stands that people essentially use anyway. Because most people replace what comes with these games with telescopic ones pretty quickly.
I've been seeing some guys doing some the jump troops and stuff for Warhammer where they're on the telescopic bases, so it's like you can actually show them drop in. So they've done a good job here on photographing. So first and foremost, the first picture I'm going to say is the worst because this is so stereotyped.
Yeah. I also have a feeling that this is quite literally the people creating the game, though. I could be wrong on that.
Which, but like this feels like what you're going to be doing on Saturday when you're playing this game is there's going to be a couple of you playing it and a couple of your friends sitting around watching. Like this feels very stereotyped.
Yeah.
Now that's the one drawback. They showed the flight stands where they telescope and they got a little ball bearing so you can rotate the pitch and whatnot. Awesome.
Yep.
Absolutely awesome. Way to add like motion to a static model. Then they have, a couple other pictures where it's got a very Dropfleet 1.0 base feel where there's a lot of information on that base.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But then what I really like is each individual dashboard.
Yeah. With
the dials for and I want to say this as neutrally as possible. Looking at this with, that measuring stick and stuff like that, this has a very strong feel to Star Wars Attack Wing and the Star Trek copy of that game as well. It has
actually,
a very
the Star
strong...
Trek one came first.
Right. But it has that very, where you have the movement template where you touch it to the base and it moves like that, where it's a very, I don't want to say restrictive, but a deliberately precise movement.
Yeah.
And I think it looks great as far as like the concept for a game. It makes it less miniature-y and more board gamey.
Yep. No, I'll agree with you on that.
While achieving that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with you on that. That's definitely accurate. Like early on with Dropfleet 2nd edition, like when they removed the bases, one of the things that we had said is like we should get some actual display, like some cockpit display. What these things down the bottom? You just called them something. Dashboards. Thank you. I still stand by that. Like, I'm kind of surprised the community didn't step up and create something.
Yeah.
It's outside of my wheelhouse.
Yeah, like make it 50% that size of what these are, with all the ship stats and like some dials and stuff like that, and boom, perfect. That's exactly what Dropfleet needs.
Yeah. So this is being made by a company called Savage Mouse Games. Battlefront are behind this, apparently. Although Battlefront are not mentioned on this page at all. But the on tabletop
Interesting.
article about this says that it's being done by Battlefront, so they must be publishing it. They must be the publishing house for this, I would imagine. Which is like it's right up Battlefront's, like because that's like it's historical gaming that is Battlefront's wheelhouse, right? So
Yeah.
So let's ask the resident nerd on this. Socks, what's your opinion on the aesthetic of this game, being the historical guy?
So I like this. So we do have Wings of Glory by Ares Games, and they have their own World War II, World War One version of that game. But I do like the look of this. I mean, I do like the look of their dashboards. They have it a little more developed than what Ares Games has in their dashboards because they do have dashboards of their own. But I like the look of this one and the telescoping. So Ares Games has the little plastic pegs that you can increase by adding more pegs to it. So I like the idea of the telescoping because then you're not having to take your airplane off the stand, put it back on, you have pegs or whatnot. So
it feels more premium.
Yeah,
I'm gonna...
and the pre-printed. They said they're pre-painted miniatures too, right out of the box.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh,
yeah,
oh.
Beautifully accurate aircraft, pre-painted models.
Oh, it is too.
Out of the box. So
Interesting.
I mean, Ares has pre-painted miniatures too, which is nice. That way you're not having to worry about historically accurate. But Battle of Britain is a huge history in terms of the aviation world.
Yeah.
And so it's cool to see this coming out.
I quite like the map that they're playing over too, actually.
I was gonna say, like, a game map for this has got to be super easy because it's just do a satellite view of like wherever.
Yeah.
Well, and actually, Ares has game mats for their games, and so you could use that or a style of map that they have. This looks very reminiscent to what Ares produces.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be interesting to see. This will be coming to Kickstarter later in the year.
The other little thing that I like too is just a little tiny nuance.
Yeah.
All the dashboards have feet to tilt them so that you can see it clearly and your opponent can't.
Yep, I'll agree with you 100% on that.
Like, having recently gotten to, the last couple of years, the world of board gaming and stuff like that, and, having the dashboards and stuff like that, like, it's very simplistic and it looks very good. It has a feel and fit, 100% for the game. It just... I'm not a historical guy because it's history. We learn from it, not trying to change it or whatnot. But this looks really good, I will say. Especially if it's pre-painted.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know this or not. Sox probably will. Do you know why the Spitfire was called the Spitfire?
Because it backfired a lot and Spitfire out.
Nope. The owner of the company. It's what he used to call his daughter. So he named it after his daughter.
Well then.
I don't know how that came up, but I heard it in a video recently.
Yeah, that's interesting.
All right, time to move on. Time to talk about something a little bit less exciting. All right.
A little more serious.
Yeah, sadly. All right. There are two sides to this story. We are going to be trying to talk about this straight down the middle. I'm going to start with the story from Big Child Creatives. Big Child Creatives, I had to do a bit of research on them. They are a sculpting house. They used to do quite a lot of miniatures that they would release on My Mini Factory. They had like a resin production facility and stuff as well. From what I understand, they have gone out of business. And this is something that they posted on May the 6th, or at least locally for me it was May the 6th. Official statement was, "Dear community, fans and followers of Big Child Creatives, we've taken our time to share this message out of caution, out of respect for you all, and in an effort to resolve through proper channels a situation we feel is profoundly unjust. Several years ago, we began a collaboration with Ammo by MiG. I'm just going to say Ammo by MiG because that's the business company. To develop a new line of paints. As a result, the result was Ionic Smart Paints, A range built with great enthusiasm and thousands and hundreds of hours of work. Despite our delicate situation, we are currently evaluating... Oh, why have I lost a whole heap here?
They're not in order.
No, they're not either. Big Child
No.
contributed through its painters network and its design management team all of its knowledge and experience in miniature painting. The hell happened? This used to be in order. Sorry.
Yeah.
We developed the colours in collaboration with their chemists to define their behaviour, created a brand identity, and developed the SMART concept with a vision of offering a product accessible to all kinds of painters and professionals. Our artistic direction and experience shaped the product you know today. Although we tried to formulise this collaboration with a written contract, we were unable to get Ammo to sign it. Even so, we chose to trust and move forward because we never imagined we would end up in this situation. They have appropriated a product developed by both parties, almost denying or downplaying our contribution, as if we had merely a decorative addition. We were not. It was a partnership of equals that, had it been respected, could have built something greater for the community. We do not deny their role, but we do not accept the narrative that Big Child was merely a casual observer, or that they were the only ones to invest resources when our contribution was foundational. And many of you can attest that, in one way or another, you collaborated with or discovered Ionic through Big Child. They know it, the painters who took part in the development know it, those who were close to the project know it, and our community knows it too. Unfortunately, our trust was betrayed, to the extent that the brand and logo Ionic Smart Colours were registered without our knowledge or consent under the name of Mig Jimenez's mother. It is a fact that speaks for itself beyond any version or explanation and adds to the ongoing lack of transparency we have endured throughout this collaboration. It's natural for Ammo by Mig to build their own version of what's happened, but the facts cannot be changed. Despite our delicate situation, we are currently evaluating the necessary legal actions to defend and protect our rights, our co-authorship, and the use of our image. But we didn't want to leave without sharing the truth. Sincerely, the Big Child Creatives team. So they acknowledge at the beginning of this, their delicate situation. I believe that what they're referring to there is the fact that they are currently going through a bankruptcy. That is the understanding from what I have read. I'm going to continue straight on to the response from Ammo by Mig. There are moments in any company's history when, despite a preference for quiet and honest work, one can no longer remain silent. Last night, Ammo was the target of a deeply unfair and damaging public attack. This attack goes beyond our company and strikes at the dignity and hard work of all the families behind the project. We are responding urgently today because the values that define us, honesty, hard work, communication, and respect, compel us to speak clearly and truthfully without hatred or fear. What happened? Big Child Creative published a statement filed with false claims, accusing us of having stolen a shared brand, of allegedly causing their bankruptcy, and acting dishonestly. None of these claims are true. These allegations, now circulating on social media without a shred of evidence, not only damage our name, but also call into question years of serious, lawful, and transparent work. This is not just a reputation crisis, it is an attack on the truth. That is why we are compiling and preserving all legal and technical documentation that disproves each of these falsehoods. We will present the documentation in court as soon as possible. How did this all begin? The Ionic project began 4 years ago as a private initiative between Jose Manuel Palomares and Carlos Cuestra, who were friends at the time. MIG was not involved until the very end, just before any agreements were to be signed. Now that Big Child has shut down its operations and has laid off its staff, it is easy for them to attack us. They have nothing to lose and are free to spread lies and fabrications without concern for the consequences. Meanwhile, Carlos, leading Ammo and Ionic, has been blindsided by their situation withdrawal. This move undermines the trust, friendship, and hard work of 4 years. Our former partners decided to stop contributing labour or investments to this joint project. This is a serious blow to the families who work at Ammo and represent its staff of loyalty and commitment. What was Ionic meant to be? From the start, Ammo's intention was to create a new company with Big Child as equal partners. Over 4 years, Ammo invested hundreds of hours into chemical development to produce the best miniature paints possible. We do not dispute the contributions of Big Child as well as other parties who worked quietly on the paints. Throughout those years, we repeatedly offered to sign a formal agreement, but in the end, it never happened. That responsibility falls on both sides, and we accept our part. Despite early doubts from some Big Child, our chemists, our decades of experience in paint development, and a massive investment of time and resources produced a formula now considered to be the best on the market. It is entirely false to claim that Big Child had anything to do with the creation of the paint formula, which belongs to Ammo's manufacturing company. What was it meant to be? This is just continued. In spring 2024, Big Child faced serious financial crisis caused by over-reliance on a single client who stopped working with them. This led to layoffs and budget cuts. Given Big Child's financial situation, Ammo supported them out of friendship and loyalty in September 2024. We agreed to move forward with Ionic, using Ammo's limited resources to buy all of the materials, handle the first production run, and even take on debt to launch the new product line. At the time, Big Child expressed gratitude, but insisted on having their logo on their packaging. They saw the project as a possible lifeline. Big Child was responsible for preparing the paperwork to set up a joint company to house the Ionic project, with 50-50 split in terms of work, investment, and resources. They were also supposed to handle all marketing and a Kickstarter campaign, which they never carried out. The company formation was delayed repeatedly and indefinitely on their side. In response to the serious accusations and lies about our brand, we must clarify. Whilst waiting for Big Child to handle the paperwork, both sides agreed to start the product as soon as possible to take advantage of the holiday season. To protect the brand, and without time, money, and resources, Big Child and Ammo agreed in a meeting to secure the Ionic launch. This was done based on the trust we had in who we believed were our partners and friends. In October, Big Child registered the domain, server, social media, and emails for Iconic under their name. In November, Ammo registered the brand and logo, relying on its 12 years of experience in this area. It was registered under the name of Trinidad Martin, as all Ammo brands have been. In fact, the firm responsible for registration does this automatically by default. This is public information, anybody can verify. It is easy to understand that no product should be launched without protecting its name, brand, domain, and social media presence. Big Child was fully aware and agreed with this. The evidence is clear. They were selling Ionic on a different website for months. Why would they do this unless they accepted the situation? How did the project joint end? Eventually, after months of selling Ionic, Big Child set a date to incorporate the company. MIG's Ammo partners even deposited the required funds which have not been returned. We believe this may constitute misappropriation, which we will have to settle in court. But 1 week before signing, they suddenly walked away. They no longer liked the profitability of the paint market, expected immediate return to solve the internal issues, and felt they lacked the control and influence they wanted. They also wanted consumers to believe the formula belonged to them, which is untrue. On top of that, they were unwilling to commit more time, labour, or investment. 2 of the 3 Big Child partners have not responded in any way since February 18th. Despite countless opportunities, their intentions have been clear for some time. Since then, the third partner, Jose Palomares, using extremely uncomfortable negotiation tactics, demanded a pre-agreement giving him 50% of the brand. He did this without acknowledging our expenses, investment, or work. He even refused to allow us to travel and meet with him and talk with him in person. On March 27th, Big Child's lawyers demanded we remove their logo from the Ionic products, which we immediately did across all ranges of platforms and new production. Our lawyers responded right away, but we have heard nothing back from Big Child on their legal team since April 9th. It is hard to reach an agreement with someone who refuses to respond. Where do things stand now? Big Child's unilateral withdrawal from the project left Ammo with hundreds of thousands of euros in development and operational debt. On top of that, Big Child owes more than $20,000 in Ionic products that were sold during their website and never paid for. Their real goal was to demand an unjustifiable payment. When we refused, they launched their smear campaign through distributors and individuals. We have evidence that they will use it in further legal actions. With the official statement they released, it is now unmistakable that their aim was to damage the reputation of both Ionic and Ammo. Consequences. The damage to our reputation has been immense, both personally and professionally, and this will be resolved in court, not on social media. Every insult or boycott affects not just the families who make their living through Ammo, but as individuals. It has shared a 4-year friendship built on a shared dream of a common project. Finally, we invite you to consider that Ionic paints, which many of you have called the best on the market, are packaged in Ammo's exclusive Atom bottles. The Ionic logo itself shares the O with the Atom and shows its clear connection with... Ammo was not founded yesterday. It's more than 2 decades old. We have built a reputation through both action and words. So yeah, you get the idea. This is... At this particular point in time, it's very difficult to say who it is that's actually at fault here. It might be a little bit of both. It might be that maybe Ammo are right and that they were treated poorly, or this could just be them trying to cover up what they've done. There's no way of really knowing. There's only 4 people that really do know, and that's the partners involved in the situation.
So
the fact that
here's my
creative...
So here's my take. Sorry, Bruce. Are you all good? Can you hear me?
Yeah, my headphones turned themselves off.
Oh, so we got 2 companies here. One is going under. The other one is still doing its thing. An agreement wasn't signed. It tells me one thing. Company A going out of business is desperate for money and is trying to do anything and everything it can to get money to stay in business.
Yeah.
Sorry, I like that gives so much more validity to Ammo, in my opinion. So
yeah, it's a difficult situation, right? Because like we have no way of knowing what the history behind this is. All we can really do is take each party at their word. one of the two parties have given significantly more information than the other. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're the one telling the truth, because we don't see any of this evidence yet. They have said that they will present it in court. Time will tell as to who it is that ends up coming out on top in this. I mean, if a company is struggling financially, which clearly Big Child must have been, and if they owed money, then obviously we know why. You don't go bankrupt for no reason. Maybe they genuinely feel like they got screwed. Regardless of whether they're right or wrong, they may genuinely feel like that they're in the right here. And I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying, like, nobody believes that they're in the wrong, even if they're doing the wrong thing. Again, I'm not saying that they are. I am expecting that. Let's be honest here. Social media is a terrible place, and we're probably going to see a war of words on social media from respective companies' fans for quite some time.
Yep.
Well, it also, to me, it doesn't matter what the fans say. Like,
no,
whatever. You know, there's still some people who think Green Stuff World is like the best thing since sliced bread, despite all the proof and evidence of them
stealing stuff,
stealing from other content creators, harassing other content creators, bullying content creators. I think that the real telling story is going to be one of two things. Who yells the loudest on social media between Big Child and Ammo, right?
Yeah.
If Big Child sits there and just starts a smear campaign, you know, bad-mouthing everything they possibly can, probably them that's at fault. If Ammo just sits there and says, we're just taking this to court, you know, that means, you know, they have the leg to stand on. You know, and if this is their one announcement, if they stay silent, it's probably because they have a halfway decent lawyer that says, release this, you're done talking, we'll settle this, and go from there.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there is one, like, Ammo are correct on one thing. Like, they are a company that's been around for some time. They are a company that have a reputation. They're not Vallejo, they're not Citadel. I would almost go as far as to say that they're not Army Painter. Their product, generally speaking, has been more of a hobbyist one and a historical painter one specifically. Like that, I'm not belittling the brand, but like they are not. Like, it's not Vallejo. It's not like you're attacking a huge company. Like, this is a smaller painting company that's trying to make a bigger mark in the industry.
Yeah.
And that does come with risk. Again, this doesn't mean that they're in the right or wrong, though.
And again, you know, like you named, like, you know, the big Goliaths, like it, and don't even talk about Citadel, just because the only reason I will say Citadel is even successful is because they are tied hand in hand with the giant of the hobby.
Well, it is quite literally it's their own brand. So
yeah. So I mean, that's the only reason why it's successful is because that's what. If you look at the back of the box, it says use these colors because there are colors. That's. But when you talk about Vallejos and the Army Painters, like, you're talking about the big juggernauts, and we've seen in the last couple of months, you know, just because you're the big juggernaut doesn't mean you're safe. Look at Vallejo.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who do seem to have bounced back.
Well,
hopefully it stays that way.
As long as Vallejo has done stuff, I mean, there's one person here in this triad of hosts that is probably very loyal to them in their line, you know, would give them 2 or 3 second chances, you know, of screw ups, right, Socks?
Yep. I've liked their paints because I've used them a lot with my historical stuff. Yeah.
So I mean, again, right now we have two companies going he said, she said. You know, it sets, you know, court has been brought up. You know, the smart company is not going to say anything until that's said and done. And when that's said and done, then we'll know who was right, who was who was the victor, I guess.
Yeah.
It may not be right, but by decision of they were the winner. So, and that's ultimately what we're gonna have to wait for it to happen. So,
I mean, I'm kind of expecting this is what I'm expecting that will come out of this. I'm expecting that Big Child were not investing as much financially towards the end, as the accusation says, and that is because they just didn't have the funds. Like that is very clearly going to be something that'll be coming out of this at some point. That doesn't necessarily make them the bad guys, but at the same time, it doesn't make them the good guys either. I mean,
no.
You are right. You can't bring something to market without it being protected. Somebody was going to have to register it.
Register it. Yeah.
And if that's registered under exactly the same details as the rest of the company is, then that entire accusation is kind of done.
Yeah.
In saying that, if they didn't do that as part of a discussion and it was done behind the back, that is very different. But if they can prove that there was a conversation where this was brought up and Big Child went, yeah, okay, with the understanding that it was going to be finalized and formalized when they brought the companies together later, then okay, then it's done, right? It's going to be. I suspect this is going to be a very messy court situation, especially given that one of these parties can't really afford. Like, if they're in the middle of bankruptcy, they're not going to be able to afford a very good. They're going to be stuck very. Depends on how flush ammo is. I mean, we don't know what their lawyer situation is like, but I'm expecting that somebody's going to have a much better lawyer than the other one.
Yeah, for sure.
In the statement by Ammo, they acknowledge that Big Creative used to rely on one particular party to make most of their income. I believe that's Simon, because I believe Big Child used to do most of their sculpts. They definitely did do some of their sculpts, and obviously don't do that anymore.
And
I suspect that's why they are going out of business, because they've quite literally lost their business. Because Simon now work with several different people, and they don't work with Big Creative anymore.
Well, and with tariffs right now, and Simon saying we're not doing any crowdfunding, we're not doing any of this, right?
Yeah.
That puts a hold on their development in terms of miniatures.
Yep. So Big Child Creative collaborated on both Zombicide and the Marvel United stuff. There may be others, but that's the only ones that I can find here of like actual evidence that they had worked on.
Yeah, so if that's the case, then yeah, I'm not surprised of their if they were 50% of the business from Simon, and Simon said we're not doing anything right now. Yeah, that's huge.
Then it seems to suggest that this happened earlier than that. Because if they were going bankrupt earlier in the year, it's way before that announcement came out. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant to the story, I suppose, but it's also not. It kind of shows that like the paint brand is not the reason they've gone under. It's unrelated.
Yeah,
they've gone under because the main company they used to work with chose not to work with them anymore. Whether it's because of the tariffs or something else is irrelevant, but that is clearly why they've gone out of business.
Indie. Definition. Independent. Type. Slang word. Jargon.
All right, Trenchcoat Miniatures. So, this is a indie that first got brought up to us by Owen. Owen being the guy that's behind one of the big indies that we were covering last year. And they have a huge range of 15mm miniatures that are, honestly, really fun. I am going to start by looking at the Trilaterum, because there's a lot here that we could look at, and we could lose ourselves in this for quite some time. So I'm going to try and focus a little bit. George, pick a logo that you like the look of.
I don't know. The Gatican?
Gaticans. Okay. Very first thing I come across is something that is definitely not an avatar of Kane. It's definitely not that. I don't know why you would even suggest it. It's probably... Oh, the giant elful vile mecha is very much along the same lines as well. Like, they're clearly going for the epic scale type game, but trying to do their versions of everything.
Yeah.
The one I actually really do like is the Grav Tank, because it's completely different. It doesn't look anything like the Eldar stuff at all. It legitimately is something of their own. That is the one that stands out to me personally. I actually quite like their cavalry infantry stuff as well. The big chunky bikes are kind of really cool. Webway. So it's very much like this is very much meant to be Eldar. It's just their version of Eldar. Again, this is epic scale, so it's much smaller miniatures. Socks, if we go back, do you have a logo that you thought stood out to you? I should have done you first.
It's okay. I was looking at the Frisians.
Yep.
They're kind of reptilian.
Actually, yeah.
Kind of hard.
I'm not going to lie, I actually really like this. Definitely feels
Reptilian.
different.
Some sort. Dinosaur.
It's like a sci-fi version of the Lizardman.
Yeah, I mean, their monstrous vehicle is a Stegosaurus, pretty much. With a Koopa shell on the back of it. Almost.
Oh, that is brilliant. I love the detail that you're getting in the scales on it, too.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be interesting to see how much of that comes out, given that we are looking at a smaller scale here. So, like, they're lizardish. They kind of remind me of... What's the thing that turns into a ball?
Armadillo.
Armadillo. They kind of feel like armadillos to me, but with masks. They're really cute. Like I said, like we've kind of gone on for a while with our previous stuff, which is why I'm kind of skimming over this and giving us all a chance to kind of look at something. I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at the Draconids because, well, it seems to suggest dinosaurs. And opening up the gunship is honestly really nice. It kind of feels... I want to say it almost feels Halo, but it's not quite. Because it's definitely more rounded and bubbly than the Halo stuff is.
Yeah.
And then if you go into command infantry, you start getting an idea. Like, this is very different.
Check out that Tartuga MBT vehicle. Scroll down a little bit. It's another computer-generated
MBT. Yep, I found
graphic.
it. It's like a giant turtle.
Yeah. With a tick turtle.
A hexapodal turtle.
What's the There's a counteraction. There's a turtle monster from Japan it's one of the rivals for Godzilla. And I don't mean like I mean like it's one of the other companies that does him. That's what it reminds me of. And he has this thing where he spins around and flies through the air.
Gamera?
Gamera. Yep, that's the one I'm thinking of. That's the vibe he gives me. Oh, the Varanus transport vehicle is quite nice too.
Yeah.
That kind of gives me almost Dino Rider vibes. If either of you remember Dino Riders.
I do remember Dino Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
It almost feels like it's got a turkey neck. So very, very different. Certainly aiming for a very specific fan base with this. Like, I mean, not everybody's into the smaller scale. One of the things that Owen had said to me when because I have behind me, this is something that he mentioned during our interview with him, which is a science fiction emu army.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
I am going to be opening this in an unboxing that I'm going to do next week. Ironically, I was going to look at this anyway because I went and looked them. I found them when he mentioned them. Because I was like, ooh, I need to look them up because they'll be great for an indie at some point. But smaller scale games is something that is definitely worth keeping an eye on at points because it's very different. You get like a bigger scale look over a battlefield. It allows you to play bigger games and not have to take up such a larger table. Detail on smaller miniatures isn't always as good as what you get because it can't be. Like, it's this big instead of this big. It can't have the same detail. But that also kind of helps with painting a little bit because it means you can get up like a rather large force without having to get everything. We've kind of just scratched the surface. We probably need to come back at these and look at these when we have a little bit more time and we don't talk about a pending legal battle that's going to get very ugly. So let's move on and discuss.
Cream, blue, prime, paint.
What have you been up to, Socks?
Finishing my wargaming that I'm doing for my school. That's what I've been doing. Trying to defend Taiwan from China.
Interesting.
So that was the scenario I was given. That was the scenario of the wargame that I was given. But school is officially done. Yesterday was my last day of class. So, and this next week and a half is used for those that are getting ready to move, which I'm not. So guess what I get to do all day? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Hopefully I'll be sitting over there and I'll have stuff for 2 weeks from now.
We expect a tabletop of stuff that you're going to show us.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see what I can do.
What about yourself, George?
I cleaned my bench off today. As I mentioned last episode, I was spending a majority of the time focusing on a Microsoft certification, which I failed by 2 questions.
Oh.
Boo!
Right? So, the funny part is the section of the test I did the worst on was pricing, which I don't sell the stuff. I just fix it. How do I know how much it costs?
It seems like a really stupid thing to be on a test, too. It's completely
Yeah.
irrelevant.
Well, have you dealt with Microsoft?
Yes, but it's still irrelevant.
Well, not for me, because I'm not a sales guy. I'm a technician.
That's what I said. Irrelevant.
But it's part of the whole platform packaging. So I haven't done much. I'm still studying. I've taken a little break from studying because, gotta get the fact that I was so close this time is just like, okay, it's there. Let me just kind of, I'm gonna start focusing in next week. I did work on cleaning this off a bit because it just turned into a pile of where everything was getting tossed. So, and then I don't see a lot of time in the foreseeable future because Sam graduates from high school on the 22nd.
Ah, fun.
Nice.
So there's that, and then there's a dog show, and yeah. So, if anything, I hope I can get some time to play some games, let alone anything else more time consuming like painting.
Nice.
So.
Speaking of playing, I've actually been playing Moonstone quite a bit. I've actually been getting almost weekly games in. I didn't actually play one this week because I wasn't well, unfortunately. I ended up getting a stomach bug. I came home at some point on Thursday, had Friday off as well. I was supposed to be playing a game Thursday night and kind of had to pull out of that and the Friday night game as well. But you're both sitting down, right? Like, just make sure that you're both sitting down properly and securely. I actually won a game of something. I won a game of Moonstone.
I call lies.
No, I won. It was 4-0. I decimated him. You know how sometimes like games feel a lot closer than what they really are? Like, I was in control of this game for pretty much most of it, but the game could have turned on its head several times, and I just managed to help keep it where it was going. I've been like the last few times I've played, I've been like, yeah, I'm starting to get a hang of how this is going. I'm starting to get a feel for how the fairies work. It just kind of, everything kind of felt like it was working right for me this time. So I was very happy.
I mean, to be fair, Bruce, like my first 3 games of Dropfleet Commander, I was really trying to figure out, like, what's the best way to do this. And once I figured out, that the particle lance was a red herring and all the other stuff, I stopped losing, period. So it's one of those things where it's like, once you figure out what your army does well and how to manipulate
That's
it.
nice.
Yeah.
No, manipulate it. You do much better.
I've also been working on some Entropy City stuff. I've been creating some new tokens, which people on our Discord will have seen already. So, previously I had tokens specifically for the speed that you were going. So the idea was that, like, if you stopped, there's a stop token. If you're at speed 1, there was a speed 1 token, 2, 3, etc. And I did that initially because we kept on struggling to remember what speed everything was on, and it kind of felt awkward on the cards. And after playtesting it for quite some time, people were like, this feels really awkward. Why isn't it just on? So it's kind of backflipped, and we put it back on the cards, but I put it on a card. I put it on the card in a way that's, in theory, going to be a lot easier to track. Like, it's down the side of the card now, and I'm just going to use a paperclip for the moment, so you can just slide it up and down with what speed you're on. But like, the idea was that you would have some sort of token that, like, goes over the top, like with board games. And then this is just an activation token. It has a reminder on there of how many actions you have, because I kind of figured, rather than it just being a token that you flip around and I haven't activated, now I have activated, because like one side's green, one side's grey, and it says activated or 2 actions. Because I kind of figured, look, if I'm going to do it, why not have a reminder of how many actions people have? Because, like, playtesters seem to forget that they have 2 things that they can do quite frequently. So that's where I've gone with that. I'm happy with how they look. It's just a question of how it plays. George was going to say something.
I know exactly what you need, because they're made by GameWorks for their Forbidden series, and I'm just trying to see if you can buy them off the shelf.
Oh, you're talking about the slider things? Yes. Yeah, like Drop Bear have like some things like that as well. Like they're used for like health and stuff in board games all the time. Like it's not an uncommon. Like it is essentially, it's a fancy paperclip.
Yeah, it's a plastic paperclip that that
doesn't damage the card as much as a normal paperclip would. Because you don't really want to drag a paperclip along a surface; it's going to tear at it eventually.
Yep.
The other thing that I've been working on is big, thick, grey pieces of MDF. I mentioned previously that I was scrapping my original table idea, and I was going to try to do something else. This has been my solution, is I've ordered some custom base sizes, and I'm currently in the process of painting them up to be cement. I was originally going to kind of try to texture them and stuff, and I've kind of decided against doing that, and this seems to be sticking together, which I don't like. So these are the smallest ones, which would be for the corners. Basically, the idea is that anything that this is not covering is road. So we have some of, like, originally it was going to be like a tile system, and like you had like one side of the tile that was the road, and then you have another one where that much is the road, and then you have other ones where it's going to cover the entire thing. And I bought a whole thing to create these, and I kind of found that it was impossible to carry around with me because it was just too big. So I'm doing this instead because it's actually transportable.
Nice.
So I'm about 3/4 of the way through that right now.
Yeah.
And I've also started going back to my old terrain and building it up a little bit. So this was originally just a bus stop. You'll actually notice some of it's covered over in spray paint. I will have to retouch this up at some point. And these I was just using as scatter terrain. for a long time. And basically what I've done is I've created a base for this out of an old trading card. Don't worry, it's a trading card that's not worth any money. Nobody needs to panic. And I've just like, it's just a piece of terrain now. The one thing I do want to do is I want to cover this over with some PVA so that it'll hold its shape a little better, because it being cardboard, it will become very fragile if I'm not careful. It also still kind of feels a little... This has been drying for 24 hours, and it still kind of has that little bit of a tacky feel to it. So I need to kind of sit everything up on this. It's the same with the card, the MDF back there. I need to sit everything up on its side, and like they've been drying for well over 24 hours, but obviously it's not quite enough yet. And then eventually I'll cover it all over with varnish and something super matte, and then I can dirty it up and put some stains over the cement. And my plan is I want to create like rubbish piles that I can kind of put around buildings, and like just stuff that I can kind of sit around and make it feel more alive. But like I have scattered terrain that I can kind of put here, but it's just the piece of terrain. Like I want to create like actual, like this is a chunk that sits there, and that's what I'm trying to do.
You want to do what Simon does sometimes. So like Massive Darkness, you have a bridge token.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you do the full-on campaign, you get a bridge miniature to replace the token. So that, you know, it's an actual physical bridge kind of thing is what you're trying to
I'm just
go
trying
for,
to...
essentially, right?
Like, because, I mean, I've been providing the terrain and everything for the game whenever I play test it, for obvious reasons. And when it comes to... like if I eventually am able to bring this to market, I need to be able to take pictures of a city that, because the terrain and the miniatures is what sells you on a game, right? So I'm trying to create ideas of like things that will look good in photos. One of the pictures I have in my head, I think I mentioned this on a previous episode, is rather than it just being ruins, trying to make the ruin, like having garden beds inside of the ruins and stuff to try to make it feel like the city's more lived in. Like if you live in a city that's very much in ruin and like nothing comes in from the outside, you have to kind of make it feel like something, like people are able to live here. And so that's my thought of how I'm doing that, is that yep, they live here, and literally the city falling apart is how they're staying alive to some extent. Like they're having to rediscover how to grow things and stuff. Is my idea there. And like I need to print off some more. I mean, I know I can make rubbish piles, but I'm just going to 3D print it. It's less work. And my plan is to build up like a pile of rubbish that's going around a corner. So you can just put it on any building you want, and it just kind of sits there. And it just becomes an easy piece of terrain. Like it looks like, I try to sculpt it in a way where it looks like it's leaning against the building, but it's a completely separate piece. That's the idea anyway. And do the same thing around dumpsters and stuff. Like the dumpster's closed, it's clearly full. And then you have like rubbish sitting around the outside of it and stuff. Just like stuff that you can throw down alleys and the back of buildings and that sort of stuff. That's what I've been doing.
Nice.
Talk nerdy to me.
Okay, Socks. Spotlight's on you.
Yep.
Yeah,
Which
we're all going to
is
go
West.
away now. Just leave you to talk.
Sounds good.
Yep.
So our topic for
Good.
Game Talk this
Well,
week.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Say it first. Our topic is which is better, historical board games or historical minis? And I say both.
I mean, that is the
They
answer.
both-
But that's the coward's answer. Come on, give a real one.
No, they both have their niches. I mean, I started out historicals. I started out in Flames of Minis. So they're near to my heart, but yet I also have that board game stack back there called Company Heroes, which is also historical, based on a computer game, but they've done so well in bringing it to a board game aspect that I absolutely love it as well. So
I'm
also
surprised you're a fan of this game, are you, Socks? I'm surprised you haven't spoken about it before.
No, not at all. I mean, absolutely not. So, but I mean, I have my Hail Caesar. I have my Civil War minis. So I absolutely love those miniatures too. I had both action for a while. I have Black Seas and I have Victory Sea, which are naval historical games. So, like George said before we started recording, it really is going to come down to your group that you have.
Yeah.
Because at the game store when I was in Illinois, every Wednesday night was historical game night, and you could bring in miniatures, you could bring in board games. It was whatever you wanted, but it was a historically themed night. That's what the focus was historical games. So it's really going to come down to what your group likes to play.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I've discovered this the last couple of years too, of being introduced more to some of these board games. There's an appeal to the board game of you have a box, you set the box down, you open it up, you pull the stuff out, and you just play a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm guessing the core set of Company Heroes is probably like $120.
About then, yeah.
So $120, you set that down, and you got at least 2 factions to play with. You've got scenarios and all that stuff, and you can sit down and play half dozen games, no problem, probably without getting bored.
Yeah, and also you've got the historical games of Axis and Allies.
Yeah,
right.
That's where my head actually went. Yeah.
Well, I thought Company Heroes because you just got that. That's your big thing right now. Is that?
Fair.
But yeah. There's Axis and Allies. There's
Risk. Would you like to play a game that will never finish? Risk is the game for you.
So there's also, I'm turning around. I have Britannia, I have a board game called Britannia, which is all about the history of Britain. It starts out with the Roman time period and moves all the way forward. I've got another one called History of the World. Yeah, I mean, there's Battlecry. You've got Memoir 44, which are historical. They're the command and control style board games with the command cards and stuff like that. But I mean, there's a whole host of historical board games of some sort out there.
And as you alluded to when I said at the beginning before we started recording, it depends on your group, right? So, and I just threw it out, 120-ish for that core for Company Heroes, and you can sit down and play a bunch of games. Flames of War, you said that's the one that kind of got you into it, right? Just like any other miniature game, what does $120 get you in Flames of War?
It'll get you a good starting army. You're going to want to expand onto it, but it's going to give you a couple of platoons of infantry. It's going to give you a couple of tanks. It's going to give you your commander, maybe some artillery pieces, depending on which army you're going to go with too. And so,
but it's just you. Your opponent has to do another 120. Your other buddy has to do another 120. Like everyone has to spend a bunch of money. Yes, then you can pick what you want, paint it how you want, blah blah, all that stuff. Versus a board game. It's a board game.
Yeah. It comes down to the level of tactics that you want as well. Because, I mean, the most complicated board game on the planet is never going to be as in-depth as a war game is. Twilight Imperium is it's a very long and complicated game from what I understand. But it's never going to be as... It's never going to be as complex as Warhammer 40k is. Neither of those are also historic, but
well, going back to what you're just talking about, Bruce, Axis and Allies.
Yep.
I buy a tank for $5 in the game of Axis and Allies. I buy infantry for $3. Okay, I've got a stack of tanks against your stack of tanks. I'm going to roll dice. If my rolls win, I'm going to take off pieces of yours.
Yep.
Whereas I'm just moving across countries on the board. I'm not moving a platoon of infantry up one side of the board and trying to outflank you. Can't really do that.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. The miniatures game is going to be very much more tactically minded. I have to worry about terrain. I have to worry about buildings. I have to worry about suppression fire or whatever the weaponry I'm facing against. So you're absolutely right. Whereas a board game is just other than Company Heroes. Company Heroes is a good game with that kind of aspect.
Company of Heroes is a bit
of
a more tactical
board. It is a middle ground. It's a tactical miniatures game on a board.
Yeah.
It is
probably, I don't know if this is what George is thinking and wants to say out loud right now, but it's probably worth noting that none of this makes one or the other better than the other. We're just talking about the differences between the games.
Well, no, I was going to say, Bruce, for every argument of nothing's going to be as in depth as like a miniature game versus even if you're counting your Twilight Imperiums. And I disagree with that because there are board games that will make a miniature game look like nothing because there are the games called Campaign of North Africa that exist that take 1,500 hours to complete.
Yeah, that's 100% fair.
So I mean,
it was a very generalized statement.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to what does your group want to do,
which is why I brought it up.
Yeah. So,
and going back to your scenario, George, that's exactly what I played. Finished up in my wargaming scenario at school. We used a board game called Next War, and it is that same small hex style board with the small little token chits for your various pieces, and it is very tactically mindset. Takes hundreds of hours to try and finish. So you can have both, and depending on what you want to play. If you want to get that far in depth, get one of those games. If you want to get something that's easy, Axis and Allies. I mean, Risk.
Yeah, there's tons. I mean, you could even make the argument that things like we mentioned Wings of Glory earlier when we were talking about that game. Like, you could make an argument that is a board game. I mean, it's not sold as a board game, but it is essentially a game in a box. Most two-player starter sets are a game in a box if you do them right. It's just that Wings of Glory, it's already pre-built, it's pre-painted, so it lends itself more to a board game feel, as opposed to if you bought, if you buy a two-player starter set of Bolt Action, it can't go back in the box once you've built it. So it's
same with Black Seas.
Yeah,
Black Seas is hard to get because of the masts.
Flames of War.
Ships. Flames of War.
Yeah.
I mean, even the game we talked about tonight, that's coming out on Kickstarter.
Yep.
Is very similar to what Wings of Glory is already. So I mean.
Yeah. Well, it not even in the historical realm. A game that all three of us have recently backed. Drop Squad Commander, has two versions where one is more board gaming, the other is more miniature gaming.
Yep.
And yeah, it's like I said, and you said you like the topic too, Bruce, because it doesn't have a right answer, it doesn't have a wrong answer. It's what is good for you and what is good for your group. I just thought it was a great topic to jump on because there are the guys who do the Napoleonic stuff where it's just like, you get shunned if your color tone is slightly off.
I love making the joke about those sort of players, and I pick on them all the time in this podcast.
And then you have and I'm just using it as the newest shining example of Company of Heroes of, it's a board game, it's a historical board game, and it's nothing more than that. You don't have to spend hundreds upon hundreds of hours of doing what you need to do for a miniature army to make it tabletop tournament ready versus Company of Heroes. You just pull the box out and you sit down with some friends. Yep. And I just thought it would be a great. I just thought it was going to be a great discussion point for you, Sock, since you have both.
Yeah,
you're obsessed with this board game, and as unhealthy a manner as I am with Cthulhu Death May Die. But then you're also, got your miniature stuff for Hannibal, where it's just like you have piles upon piles of ridiculously small scale stuff to paint.
Yes.
It's Cthulhu Death May Die. I would make an argument that if you have a healthy obsession with that game, you're not playing it properly. It's Cthulhu. It's supposed to be unhealthy.
I'll give you that argument of logic there, Bruce. That is.
Yeah, and like we're talking about this from a historical, as much as we drifted occasionally, but like from a historical point of view. But like, this argument can be like, it doesn't have to be historic. Like, it really
absolutely for sure.
If you have board game people that you want to get into miniature gaming, how do you do it? You talk about the tactical differences. Like, you talk, like, and you're not going to sell everybody on miniatures. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, some people just aren't interested, and like some people just aren't interested in board games. But if you ever have a friend that's like, I'd really like this, but I kind of wish that you could take it to the next level. That's what a miniature game is, a giant board game. Like,
Yeah.
It's how I always... Like, I don't... What's tabletop games? It's like a giant board game. That's quite literally how I describe them to people that don't know what they are.
Yeah, I would almost argue, like Attack Wing and Angel 1-6 and stuff like that. I would say those are like the perfect game because it is.
Well, that's why
X
X-Wing was so popular.
Yeah, it is a miniature game that was very specific on its movement instead of like, I'm going to move at a 20-degree angle 6 inches, right? That's something you could do with a squad of salamanders or whatever. In X-Wing, it was you had movement templates. It gave you that free board effect of a miniature game, but it gave you that restriction of a board game of you have to stay within the lines.
Yeah. So, yeah, I love topics where there's no right answer and wrong answer. It just kind of opens to an interesting discussion point.
And then you have stuff like this. Combined Arms by Warlord Games. It's a board game, but you can turn this into a campaign, and then you can go onto the tabletop and play naval battles using more at sea. You can use bolt action to do your ground combat. So, those kind of hybrids too, where you can play it as a board game, or you can turn it into a huge campaign system on tabletop.
That is a nice middle ground.
Yeah.
Campaigns is something that I always struggle with because they always seem to start and not end. Making it into a game like that opens up so many opportunities.
Tournaments, demos, conventions, that kind of stuff.
The Australian Model Expo is on from the 7th till the 9th of June at the Sandown Racecourse. From what I understand, ArcFest did go extremely well, by the way. I had a few people commenting about how exhausted they were because, well, of course they were. They were at a 3-day week, a whole weekend of tournaments. Tournaments will take it out of anybody. Gen Con is coming up at the end of July, from the 31st of July to the 3rd of August. Indianapolis Convention Center in Indiana. Isn't that what I said?
Indianapolis. You said Indianapolis.
Okay, fine.
Maybe you said Indianapolis. Whatever.
Indianapolis Convention Center in Indiana. PAX Australia is from the 10th until the 12th of October. If you have events that you would like us to talk about, let us know. Who wants to talk about Valhalla Hobby?
Socks.
Great store. Great store. Absolutely love them. So we all do actually.
Yes.
Because not only do they have your mainstream games, but they also have your off-the-wall niche games that no one really hears about. They got the Historical War. They've got Black Sea.
Bushido.
They have Bushido. They have
Moonstone.
everything that you can. Moonstone. Yep. So, and using the code tabled, you can get 5% off first order of $100 or more. So, and they also support us. So support them because it shows their support for us.
I was going to say, with the exception of Bruce, because of geographical location,
Shipping.
I think just about everyone, Patreon-wise and host-wise, has ordered something from that store.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels about right.
I know JP has sent a lot their way just because their prices are great. Their turnaround and shipping is phenomenal, and the speed at which they ship too. Like they don't cut corners on that. It's like 2 to 3 day shipping. You order it and in under a week it's at your door. And that kind of support in the community is awesome because if you're in an isolated area where you don't have a store that can facilitate, your hobby needs, to have a online presence that will do that is amazing.
Yeah. We definitely appreciate their support. Again, if you use the code tabled at checkout, you will get 5% off your first order over $100. We also appreciate the support of our Patreon community. They have been wonderful. There's been a couple people that's been joining in recently, and we appreciate the fact that you've come on board. You help keep the lights on. For $2 a month, you get early access to all of the video content that we do. There is very, very rare exceptions to that, where for whatever reason there may be something that needs to be out quickly, but it's extremely rare.
I was going to say, like, the only thing that comes to mind is a review I did of a Blood Bowl army that was during a live Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah, and one of the Dropfleet videos, because we quite literally were told we weren't allowed to show anybody until a certain date, so that had to go out live on a certain date because we had no choice in the matter. It also means that if you wanted to, you can actually listen to us record live on Discord, which is where we do all of our recording. We appreciate those that listen. We appreciate those that support. It helps us keep going. Where can people find us, George?
They can find us all over the place. Primarily where we like to see people find us is on patreon.com/GettingTabled. Again, $2 a month to become a tabler and listen to us live, early access. We have a chat community where, we do interact with folks, and, we love the input and the community that is going there. The website is gettingtabled.com. Again, because of our Patreons and our supporters, we can have that. Primarily where you see a lot of the posts and the action is facebook.com/gettingtabled. If we've got something, that we're posting about or something that's happening in the community, that's going to be one of the first and fastest places to find it. All of our video content, you can find it on youtube.com/gettingtabled. Please give us a like and subscribe. I think we're at 870 subs right now. Something like that, last I looked. And of course, if you got anything for us, questions, comments, tournaments, something you want us to talk about, you can email us at gettingtabled@gmail.com. X/Twitter, Instagram, Blusky, Threads, that is all at Getting Tabled. Reddit is r/gettingtabled. And then in the show notes, somewhere, Bruce puts all of our lovely Discord stuff, so you can click on that and find our happy little community where we talk to people. And then finally, for Bruce, he has also got another venture that he is working with a group called Toy Reel. You can find that at youtube.com/toyreel, where he talks about toys. Action figure toys, folks. It's not that kind of YouTube channel. And then, of course, you can find his game, entropycitygame.com.
Yeah, like the Entropy City website is very simple at this stage. It will become more complicated over time, but there was quite a few people that were like, hey, do you have anywhere outside of Facebook where I can find more information on this? There it is. It's very simple. There's a page for lore. There's a page about who I am. There is links to the Facebook community group, to the project blog on Beasts of War, and a few other places, just so people can keep track of how it's going. So,
and when Bruce says there's a page about him, it's a brief paragraph, actually.
Something like that. I mean, you only get so much room on those basic websites. So, also,
I'm giving you a hard time, buddy.
Thank you very much, George. Thank you very much, Socks.
Thanks, Bruce.
Yep, not a problem, Bruce.
Yeah, whatever, Socks. You can, whatever.
Thanks. See ya. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For listening to Getting Tabled. Music used in this podcast was created by Eric Matyas at soundimage.org.
I'm going to do this again because I will cut the other one and pretend that it never happened.